Welcome to the Community Hotline, for the community, by the community. I'm your host, Mr. Bob Fang. And today we have special guest today, Teresa Lo. Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Hey, how's it going?
Why don't you introduce yourself?
So my name is Teresa Lo. I am a writer. I've written several books. I wrote a series called The Red Lantern Scandals, and it was one of the top Asian American books the years it came out. And then I'm also a journalist. I've written for different publications. And then now I'm also a stand-up comedian, and I perform all over the United States.
A woman with many talents. I love it. All right, let's move on to the first topic of the day, which is money. Teresa, what is money?
Oh man, money to me is about freedom. And it's really kind of interesting because when I was growing up, my parents were always like, you need to make a lot of money. My dad was like so crazy. He even gave me a number. He's like, you're a loser if you don't make at least $250,000 a year. Like it was such a specific amount. And I was like, oh my God. And I'm just going to say right now, I did not hit that mark. He was not happy with me, but I used money. So for instance, as a writer, I am a freelance writer. I own my own business. And so the way I make money is I network and things like that, and I get jobs, but I'm my own boss. Like I have clients, but no one necessarily tells me what to do. I just have to write something and then submit it. And if they like it, cool, I get paid. And so for me, being my own boss was like, it kind of changed my life because when I was an employee, I used to work for people who were just like awful, and they kind of like treated me to the point where you're like, what are you going to do about it? You know? And like, I was like, I don't want to live like that. And so for me, becoming my own boss and making my money through like myself and not being an employee, like gave me the freedom to be like, if you treat me bad, I'm just going to leave.
I love it. Do you have a personal experience about that bad where people just
oh my God. So for like talking about money and like being money and being a woman, for instance, like I worked at this one company. They were so shady in the fact that like I was clearly an employee. I was supposed to come in at a certain time. They told me what to do. I used all their equipment, whatever. But they classified me as an independent contractor instead of employee. And the reason that is so bad for the people who don't know is that, for instance, if I was let go, I don't get things like unemployment. I didn't get things like insurance. I had to pay my own taxes because they classified me wrong. But they treated me like an employee, and to the point where like I would do these tasks and they're like, we own everything you write, which is fine, like whatever. But when I was like really starting to succeed, like the value I was bringing to the company was high. And I was like, I should at least have a better title. So I asked for a better title, better raise. And my boss actually said to me, why do you need more money? You don't have any kids. And I thought to myself, like, what a gross thing to say. And then he was like, but we can give you a promotion by giving you more work to do. And I was like, you want to give me more work to do, no extra money, no better title. And not only that, like he wanted me to create TV show concepts. But I was like, okay, if I create these TV show concepts, will you at least give me the credit, like say I made these shows? And he's like, no, you work for me. If you write the show, I get the credit. And I was kind of like, why would I do any of this? Like, can you imagine if I had created the next American Idol, but that guy's name was on it and I didn't get the money from that? And I was like, no, thank you. I just walked away. And so people were like, you just quit that job. And I was like, I actually had to quit because he was going to steal my ideas, and I was getting paid like I was making a living, but not like if I had created the next American Idol, he'd be a multi-millionaire more than what he already was. I would be, still what I was.
Teresa, I'm gonna play you a chord for that story. Well, I'm glad you went through that experience because I'm sure you're much tougher now.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the thing too about money is like walk away. No one pays you enough money. Like, I mean, granted, if I had ever reached a job where they paid the $250,000 that my dad said, maybe it'd be a different story. But if people are paying you like minimum wage, $20 an hour, it's kind of like they don't have the right to treat you badly. You can find another job that pays that. So I guess that's the advice I had too, from what I've learned from my own life.
I love that. I love that. How did you spend your money back in high school? Like, is it different than what you understand money to be now?
In a high school, for instance, like my parents had a Chinese restaurant and my dad made me work there since I was 12. And so, but I didn't get paid. And so whenever I needed money, I would just ask my dad, but I was like, I still technically worked for this. And so, and then I also lived in a small town where it's like, there's not a lot of stuff to do or buy. So it's like the difference between money between like the small town in Kansas versus like Los Angeles is crazy to me because like, you know, people don't pay that much in I mean, some jobs do obviously, but like there's a lot of jobs you'll find out that they only pay like $10, $15 an hour. But I'm like, it's so much more expensive here than different areas of the country. It just kind of blows my mind.
Yeah, that's intense. Did your dad like ever like teach you like money tips, or was he just like, here's 250, you got to make this, I'm not, figure it out? Or
well, my dad was very much like go to school and get a good job. And so for instance, like my older sister is a doctor. That's like the Asian thing to do. She was a doctor. My little sister, she works in a big corporate job in New York City. And like, I was supposed to be a lawyer. Like I even like, you know, what do you call it? I was an intern for a big lawyer in Lawrence, Kansas, because I went to the University of Kansas. So, I mean, I kind of went through the steps of almost doing what would have got me the 250 eventually. But I just ended up choosing a different path because I wanted to be happy instead of just rich. And so I kind of think when it comes to money, it's like there's a threshold to be comfortable. But other than that, I didn't need to be like a baller.
got it. You got any what are 2 money tips you have for the kids?
The money tips I have, I would say that if you are going to be paid, like okay, for instance, if you're an artist, like sometimes people want to work for free. And I actually think you should work for free if there's a value to you, like you enjoy the experience, you're going to enjoy that. That's fine. But if someone is like treating you bad and paying you little, walk away. Like you don't need that, you know? Because I have seen people give away like they'll write an article or something for like $5 and they don't get the right to use that article again. I was like, you gave away something kind of valuable for $5. For $5, you should have just kept it for yourself, you know? So that kind of thing. Like make sure the value matches what you're giving away. I guess the second tip, when it comes to things like saving or spending, I actually kind of think like I don't think people should necessarily hoard because sometimes you need to invest. So for instance, like if you don't have a lot of money and you get like sometimes it might make more sense to invest in something that will get you more money instead of just hoarding it away.
Grow money.
Yeah, grow money. Yes.
I love that. I love that. Invest in some Bitcoin, guys. Let's move on to the second topic of the day, which is education. Tell us, who were you in high school?
Oh, so in high school, I was like the super nerd, but like the cool nerd, I guess, because I was like the student body president. I was the head of the newspaper. So I was always kind of like, I'd almost be like a little Tracy Flick from Election, where I was always in charge of everything. And then, yeah, I was like that in college. I guess I'm kind of like that now. Like I like to be the boss. So I guess there's kind of a theme here. I'm very organized. I always like to be the boss. I don't like to have people tell me what to do. And so, yeah, I guess I've always kind of been like that. And then I guess other education stuff, like my family was very much like, you need to be educated. So like, when I made the decision to be a writer, they weren't really that supportive of it until I got into an MFA program at USC. And I think they were like, oh, she has validation now. You know, big people think she's good. And that's when they kind of backed off and kind of were like, okay, we're going to see where this goes. But I kind of think when it comes to education, like if you want to be an artist, sometimes you don't need to pay like a really high tuition to be an artist. Sometimes it's like you just need to go and like learn from someone who's in the field and they're doing cool stuff that you want to do. I think that actually is a better education than paying a school. Like, I mean, granted, I think classes are really important, but sometimes you don't need the full out degree, at least for art is my thoughts on that.
What if you had kids and then they're like, Mom, I don't want to go to college or I don't want to go to school. What would you say in that situation?
I would actually, okay, so I think that everybody needs to have an education, at least to the point of maybe an associate's degree to like Because I definitely think there's like, you need to know the basics, right? But when it comes to actually getting a job, a lot of the time it is based on like who you know and like how much money you can earn. For instance, it's like you could probably make more money selling cars than you can like working for someone in an office. And so, yeah, like it's kind of tough. Like, I think it depends on what my kids' end goal was. Like, if they want to become a doctor, of course they need to go to college. But if they tell me that they want to become a professional photographer or something like that, I'm using an example, or like a professional writer, it's like, yeah, they might need to go to college because you do need to read and write a lot, but I don't think they need like necessarily an MFA or a PhD. And so I think it really would depend on their goals. But like my MFA program, I had to, considering how much money I had to pay, a lot of the classes, I'm like, that was kind of a scam. And like, now that you know, like how much that actually costs, it really changes your perspective of what they do to people. They make people take some stupid classes for thousands and thousands of dollars. And I don't think that's right.
Do you have an example? What's a class?
Oh my gosh, yes. So for instance, I took this one class, and granted, the actual like, topic was a good topic. It was how to direct actors. And that makes sense if you're in film school, right? But the teacher they had was this like very old racist, and she was known to be racist. Like, they kind of warn you like, haha, isn't it so funny, this woman is racist? And then like the people of color in the class are just sitting there like so shocked at all the things she says, and all the white people are just cool with it, whatever. And like the school even had a scholarship where if she chose you to be her assistant, you got a free ride to USC. But she only picked white people. So it was like a white people scholarship. And so us as the people of color sitting there, we're just kind of like, we paid thousands of dollars for this class just to kind of see this like inequality. And it really just like now that so many years have passed, I'm like, that was so wrong. And I can't believe like I paid for this class.
Don't get hustled. Wow.
Yeah, sometimes it's the ultimate hustle.
I love that. Okay, so I feel like you've had a lot of experiences in your life. What would you say are two defining moments, and how did they impact you?
With education?
Sure, how about one in education and then one in general life?
Oh my gosh, like I would say there's so many. I guess even that, like talking about that one with that teacher, right? And I just remember like,
what's her name?
Okay, I'll even tell her name. Her name was Nina Fox, and she's dead now. And it was really kind of interesting because like they made a little, like, so USC made a little video like in memorial to Nina, and all the people who are in there saying she's so wonderful are like white people. And I was like, of course you guys don't care of the hurtful things she said, and you guys don't care that the scholarship was only for you guys. It's like stuff like that. We were just kind of like, it was a really gross experience. And like, I guess I've had so many gross experiences that it's hard for me to like pick just two, but I will share two. I don't know if they're the best ones, but like another example was, so when I was pursuing screenwriting, I went to this party and I met this famous writer director. And, he was talking to me, he was giving me advice, and he seemed like okay. Then towards the end, he was like, you need to not smile so much because you look like a Chinaman cartoon when you smile. Like, he literally said that. It was like so gross to me. I was like, I can't believe you would think that you could say that to me. And not only that you thought it, but that you just thought it's cool for me to give her this note. I just met her at a party. And I told my friend what the guy said. And my friend was like, well, you should just put up with it because he's a pretty big deal. And I just thought to myself, like, no, you don't have to. And I think that kind of goes back to, I guess, my life philosophy is if we just ignore bad people, those bad people don't have power. And so it really bothers me when people are just like, oh, we know he's terrible, but just put up with it. It's like, why? If we all ignored him, he would have no power. So that was, I guess, one defining experience for me, at least when it comes to being a screenwriter. And then I guess like the experience of that teacher and how the school just kind of let her do what she wanted to do and treat people so badly, but then expected basically the minority students to pay the same tuition as the white students. I was a little bit like, school doesn't have to be this way either. Like, I think that there needs to be a lot of changes. And like after the Black Lives Matter protest, the school sent out something like, we care about diversity. And I was like, do you? Like, you know, and the school, this is why I think a lot of like old institutions don't like dealing with me anymore, is because like they sent me a survey and they're like, what did you think of your experience at USC? And I was like, this is what I thought. Yeah. So I guess those are two defining moments, I guess, of my career.
I do see a common thread, a common theme of like of just you being who you are and how the world is basically reacting to you. So I guess has it gotten better? I guess is my question. Like, you know,
100%. Because this is the funny thing too, is that me being more outspoken has actually created a little bit of fear. Whereas, for instance, like they don't want to, a lot of times, like if you make waves, they will blacklist you. Like that is 100% true. And that's why I guess I always have made moves to make myself independent where it didn't matter. But then because I am independent, I can continue to make waves. And so because I will make waves, they have to kind of be on their toes. And I feel like that's kind of like, I guess, a luxury that I have that maybe other people don't have. But yeah, I feel like it's like, no, you can't be doing this bad stuff and not at least being called out. I think it's time to start calling these people out.
Got it. I agree 100%. Tell us then, what are the top 3 steps to become a writer like you?
So I have been reading and writing a lot since I was a kid. And so I think that you have to just love it. I think that's the first thing you need, is you truly need to love it. And that putting in the work is like the love for it. So whenever I meet writers and they say they want to write a book, but they don't read books, I think that's so weird. I'm like, why do you want to be a writer? It makes no sense. You have to love what you do. So that's the number one thing. And then the second thing is to figure out, what kind of writer do you actually want to be? Because I think a lot of the times when we see writers, we see like the famous novelist or the famous screenwriter, and we kind of think that's the only type of writing to do. But there's so many different types of writing that you can make a living off of. You could be a copywriter, you could be a technical writer, you could do social media stuff. So there's like plenty of avenues if you start to think outside of the box. And it's kind of like, even for me, I do have a personality where I cannot stand injustice. I think we've kind of seen that about me. And so like, I couldn't stand working in like TV writing, where you would be kind of like in a writer's group. And if you like you'd have to like mesh with other writers, and you have to give people basically at the top what they wanted. And like, I was kind of like, I should be at the top. I don't know. This is my problem. It's like, you know, that's probably why.
It's not a problem.
Thank you. Yeah. Maybe it's not a problem, but it's a problem for them. They're like, get out of here. And so like, I had to kind of think like my personality, what's better for me. And because I am kind of the way I am, journalism was perfect. And then novels were perfect because it was like all on me. Like, so it was like, I could write something, give it to an audience, and that mattered more to me. I didn't need validation from like a third party or a gatekeeper. It went straight to the audience. And so, yeah, the next thing I would say is like, figure out your personality, and that will kind of mesh with the type of writing you want to do. And then the third thing is, I think sometimes with writing, it's like, if you just love it, don't worry about the money. I think you should worry more about just being the best writer you can be. And then I think that will lead to opportunity. It's just the quality of your work. I think if you care too much about money, like whenever I meet writers and they're like, how do you get an agent or something? And I was like, did you even write your book yet? And they're like, no. And then to me, I'm like, oh, you care more about the money than the quality of the work. I don't even want to deal with you right now. You know, it's about, yeah, the love, and then what you put into the love. So
I love it. Hey, we're going to love now.
Yay.
Tell us, what is love?
I think love is like a long-term commitment to something, but also love, I think, should be mutually beneficial. Like, I mean, like when it comes to like unconditional, like for instance, like you can love something forever, but for instance, like if you love something and they're toxic back to you, I think sometimes it's okay to walk away. I think it's the thing, we don't need to have this toxic world. It's like, you know, it should be about joy, where it's like, like for instance, I love my family takes care of me, and in turn I take care of them. It's like, it's a mutual thing where it's like, I don't think necessarily we have to be attached to terrible things just because they happen to be around. And so, yeah, I think I'm definitely in that whole walk away thing about love as well. Like if someone treats you bad, I don't know, we put up with it, but we don't have to.
Absolutely, absolutely. What's your astrology sign?
My what?
Astrology sign?
I am a Capricorn.
Got it, got it.
Yeah, and so we're very logical and cold. So I think that kind of like fit my personality. Yeah, because my best friend, she's also Capricorn, and she kind of really taught me about like boundaries and like sticking up for yourself. So she kind of got on the like the wavelength first, and then I kind of learned from her, or I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like she was like, if someone treats me bad, I just cut them off and stuff. And I was like, whoa, that's so weird. And she's like, and then I saw that with time, I was like, oh, her method is really working. And she's like happy because she sets these boundaries. And if people treat her bad, she just won't respond to them. And it's like, her life, I really started like, wanted to be like her life because she was so happy.
That's great. I mean, I think that's really important. If you don't set like you said, if you don't set your boundaries of like, hey, I'm going to pay you $5 for this article and then I'll take it forever. You gotta stick up for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, like I worked for this artist like during the pandemic for a few months, and I felt really bad for him because like you could actually feel he was a very loving person, but because of that, there was this guy who kind of, you could just see this like leechy person like come out of nowhere and like take advantage of him. And I always try to tell the artist, I was like, you don't have to put up with him. But he's like, oh, but he took care of me when this tragedy happened. I was like, don't you think it's suspicious like that you were down in the dumps and he comes out of nowhere to offer help, and then now he's been leeching off you ever since? And he's like, no, he's like, but you could kind of tell he knew that that was the story, but he was afraid to like walk away from this terrible man. But I'm like, this terrible man is an abuser, like, but at the same time he wouldn't leave. So it's like, what can you do?
Can't save people. Who was
people have to save themselves.
Who was your first love?
My first love, it's interesting because like in college, I was with this guy long term, but I was in an abusive relationship in college. So I think also it's like I had to learn this with time. So it was like, I definitely, had to become this way, but I was in an abusive relationship in college. It was very, very abusive. Like he would always like, talk down to me. Like we would go out in public and he would scream at me, where I was like, kind of like, my friend one time asked me, do you think your boyfriend will kill you? Like that's how bad our relationship was. And at the same time, I was like, oh, but he loves me. Like I was like, like that. And I think that's why I'm so much like walk away, because I didn't walk away for years and years. And so like the only way I really got away from him is like, I applied for school to be somewhere else, and he was so lazy he didn't follow me. That was it. But if I had stayed in Kansas forever, I probably would be stuck with him, and who knows how badly my life would have turned out.
So that's how you got to USC, or?
So yeah, like I went to USC like basically straight out of University of Kansas. So I also think too, like when I went to film school, I went like right away because I think like I was taught too much by my parents. Like, you need to go to school, you need to go to school. And I felt like I needed that validation instead of just taking the leap and started to just work.
Right.
And so like I got saddled with this like very expensive, tuition bill when I probably wasn't ready. Like I even also dissing the school because of that lady and I guess other things that happened. I was also probably not really ready to do a graduate program because like the talent was there, but the confidence was not there. And then when you're not confident and you're not strong, like other predator type of people will prey on you, And I think now it's like funny. It's like, if I were to go to school now, it'd be a whole different experience.
You'd be the shark.
No, but it's funny. I don't take it back. Like I've had a lot of bad experiences happen to me. And I think it kind of comes down to like, what is your character? I in turn am like, I will never be like that. And I will protect other people from the terrible people I see. And I think maybe that's the difference of how I choose to live. Because I've seen the opposite. Yeah. Where people who treated bad, once they get power, start treating other people bad. And I'm like, you don't have to do that. You can break the cycle.
Breaking the cycle.
Break the cycle.
Love it. I talk to a lot of kids, and they have a lot of they struggle a lot with communication with like their parents. You know, like, oh, I can't talk to my dad. He don't understand me. I can't talk to my mom. He don't understand me. You know, what was your relationship like with your parents?
100% like that. So it's like my parents, like especially my father. So my father was a yeller, and I would actually say, like, I just flat out openly say this, like he was very emotionally abusive. He was like, one minute he would come home and he'd be happy, another minute he would just scream. And it's just kind of like there's a lot of screaming. Like when I was a kid and I talked too much, he would like, you know, punish me for that. And so I was like, you know, I'm different now, but it took me a long time to be like this. But when I was, for the most part, in my childhood years and whatever, I had this like nervousness. Like I had to be perfect. Like I always felt like I had to overwork. And also like if anyone kind of criticized me, I get tense because I was so used to like, oh, if you're not perfect, you're going to get yelled at. And like, you know, even when I chose to choose writing instead of law, my dad, he like screamed at me. There's a lot of crying. There was no like support. And then like when I got into USC, he kind of shut up. But then even now, like I've had highs and lows in my career since I've graduated. And I've been out of school for like over 10 years. And like, but in those over 10 years, it's like sometimes there's highs and lows, and some with the highs, he's nice. Sometimes with the lows, the criticisms will come out. And I think once I hit 30 and really started to like gain more confidence within myself, I started to just be like, shut up. But it took me till I was 30. So basically in my 20s, like my dad be calling me like, why don't you go and do this other career and stuff? And I was like, I am 28. You know, it's like stuff like that where you're like, why are you still yelling at me? But now it's different where, you know, my father tried to say something rude to me like last year. And I flat out just said like, you are a rude person. Don't talk to me. And I actually just left the house. I was just like, if you talk to me like that, I am going to leave. He never apologized, but then I saw him a month or two later. He just didn't say anything rude because he's like, she's not going to listen anymore. She's going to leave and she's going to tell me I'm rude. And he got so upset that I called him rude. And then so it was like the tables turned. But I also think too, a lot of people, it took me like basically until I was in my 30s before I could finally say something back. So I 100% understand when other people have parents who are like toxic and whatever, and how hard it is to like listen to that, because yeah, I had that forever. And I think the only thing is almost like goes back to when we're talking about the money talk. When you finally are fully independent, you also have to finally like say to yourself, I'm going to walk away. And that's like the biggest power you have, is finally just to leave.
Wow. So what from that, you know, because it kind of, for me, it's like, okay, you got to wait till you're 30. You have to build up confidence. I'm not saying you're old.
I mean, it took a long time because, like, for instance, like, getting yelled at so much, being told like your dreams don't matter and stuff when you're like 16, 18 and you can't escape, like that is hard. Like hearing that it took even me until 30 when I was like, oh my God, that's still like 30 years before that, not getting to do, you know, or at least getting to do what I wanted, but also not getting the support, you know, is hard. And I guess like, you know, when you're young and dealing with it, I think it comes down to like maybe to deal with people who don't support you and whatever, know that there is somewhere else to go. And I think it's like, even if you're in a bad place now, know you can make steps. Like kind of like, okay, they're yelling at you now, but just know, okay, if I get this job or I meet this person, next step, or I can move away, next step. You know, it's kind of like there's little steps you can take to finally be free. And I guess it's that. Oh, and then that gives you a sense of hope, because I was in Kansas, and like when I was in Kansas, like people were like racist to me. My dad's yelling at me all the time. It wasn't the best life experience. I'm going to be 100% honest. It was not the best. But I was kind of like, if I keep being good with people, if I keep like working on my craft and my dream, like basically like me being like such a nerd in high school, that got me to college. College got me to USC. USC got me to LA. And it's like, almost like everything just was like step by step by step. So it's almost like that's how I felt like I finally got to be who I wanted to be, because I kept taking little steps. And it takes time, but you can take little steps to get away and like finally do what you want to do.
I'll play another chord. Tell us, how do you show love to others?
I think for me, I show love with respect. Like I treat everyone like the same. And then let's say they're a jerk, then I'll walk away, or I will, usually it's just that I'll just walk away. But like everyone gets the same shot with me. And I feel like that's a way of showing love, because a lot of people are not kind. Like a lot of like, it's kind of like, and I noticed in LA, this happened to me, is like people weren't that nice to me until I showed some kind of value to them. I'm the opposite. I will show everyone the same amount of kindness and love until they become like a jerk or something, then I'll like go away. But everyone else, it's like, I don't care what your background is. I don't care what you can do for me. I just want basically friends in a community. As long as you're just a nice person, then like you're welcome.
Love that. And then how do you receive love?
I think it's the same way, is that like it's so fascinating to me, is that when I finally came into my own and was like, this is how I want to be, this is how I want to live, I started just kind of attracting other nice people. And it's like, we're all like nice, but we're all like, everyone's damaged in some way. I think it's like when you kind of know that there's like a backstory there. And then like, they would still show me love despite all of the, you know, maybe hardships that they have inside of them as well. And so it's like, yeah, it was just like, do good things for other people. You'll do good things for them. It's just constantly a give and take. And that's why I'm always about like, it needs to be some kind of give and take. Like, even if the give is just, they make you laugh every time you see them, that is a joy that you won't receive from a lot of people. So I think it's that, it's like, I guess that's how I get love, is like, we give back.
You're amazing, Teresa. Tell us any last words for the kids listening? And then
yeah, it's like, you know, if you're having a hard time, I guess that's the thing, is like, I had a really hard time growing up. I had a lot of like terrible stuff, and it's kind of like, it will get better. And like, don't be afraid if like someone's being mean to you, to secretly figure out how to get away. Like, you don't need to be treated badly. It doesn't have to be the norm. Abuse does not have to be the norm.
Got it. And where can people find you?
So I am on, let's see, on YouTube, I'm at T-Lo Club. At Twitter, I'm at Teresa Lo _tweets. And then I'm at Teresa Lo Writer on Facebook and Instagram.
Got it. And I'll add all those at the end. Cool, guys. Thank you guys for watching.